Baruch Atah Adonai, Viva Puerto Rico Haolam, Hamotzi Lechem Mein Haaretz. Amen. The making of a Hebrew Mamita, the construction of a Jewish girl gone awry or gone straight, however which way you choose to see it. Background. I am a half Sephardic Syrian Jew and a half Ashkenazi Russian Jew, born and raised and still living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I grew up with liberal parents who taught public school in the Bronx for over 26 years. They didn't believe in private schools, carried Channel 13 tote bags, and turned their noses up at poor quality rye bread that lacked a decent crust. I listened to Michael Jackson, the Sugar Hill Gang, who had the very first hip hop single to become a top 40 hit, and Free to Be You and Me, the classic album whose basic concept was to encourage post-1960s gender neutrality, saluting values such as individuality, tolerance, and comfort with one's identity. A major thematic message was that anyone, whether a boy or a girl, can achieve anything. My best friend was Puerto Rican. Her father owned the corner of Bodega Deli, corner store, where I tasted my very first ham and cheese hero with mayo. And yes, I loved it. I celebrated Christmas in her apartment with her big loving family and danced salsa next to the tree. I went to a Reconstructionist Hebrew school 3 times a week after school, where I was one of 2 students who didn't attend private school. I wore the knockoff budget version of the fancy Izod shirts with the classic alligator emblem. They were called Le Tigre and instead had a tiger emblem on them. I went to a Jewish Y sleepaway camp where I was a chubby roller disco queen, surrounded by Long Island girls with eating disorders and lavish bat mitzvahs. On Sundays, I went with my family to Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn and ate exotic Syrian treats like sambusak. And during the week, I ate bagels, lox, and cream cheese, or pollo guisado with Dominicans on 88th Street. Basically, I am, a cultural ticking bomb. Armed with a half-fare bus pass and a number 2 pencil, my upbringing was extremely beautiful, complicated, unique, and challenging for myself and my poor mother, who watched me crash into ceilings and situations head-on. In high school, I wore vintage clothes and wanted to wear a cross around my neck like Madonna did. I became an avid hip-hop fan, listened to nationalistic politicized hip-hop like Public Enemy, attended police brutality marches, and danced in $5 nightclubs with a fake ID. My first boyfriend had a 4-knuckle gold ring. And yes, there was that period of time where I deemed it not cool to be Jewish. To be white was one thing, but if you were one of those Italian or Yugoslavian white girls from Queens, you could celebrate Christmas with your boyfriend and wear a cool Madonna cross. In my search for modern Jewish female role models, I came up empty. My Black and Latino friends joined student unions, celebrated their heritage that I was not a part of, raised their fists in the air, and I felt lost along the way. I wrote my college essay about the problem of segregation on campuses and ended up staying in New York and going to Hunter College because I wasn't ready to leave my beloved New York City. I dated men who thought they were selling out by being with a white girl, and then dated a Jewish guy who was an overzealous vegan, belonged to the Anti-Tax League, and banned me from wearing lipstick with carnauba wax in it. One summer, I went to Israel with my sister, met Jews from South Africa and Yemen, went to my first nightclub where everyone wore big stars of David around their tan necks. They were hot and cool and proud to be Jewish, and I was enchanted, excited, and overwhelmed. I discovered I liked acting and went to a tiny MFA program in Providence, Rhode Island, and met my first white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. I felt very Jewish and very New York, and all of a sudden this all felt very good and important to me. I moved back to New York, wanted to be Meryl Streep, but ended up writing offbeat performance poetry about all this noise inside of me. I am the culture bandit. I eat matzah in Harlem, thrown out of Hebrew school because I spent Rosh Hashanah at the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Rotis, mofongo, collard greens, and kimchi, gefilte fish, bacalao, fried catfish, all for me. Yeah, I eat it all because I'm culturally greedy. By any means necessary, the Warsaw Ghetto, the Boogie Down Bronx, no justice, no peace. Dayenu, Boricuas. I named myself the Hebrew Mamita, researched my heritage, decided Pesach was my favorite holiday, and realized there was a voice missing in theater for urban Jewish girls from New York City. I intended to fill it, and finally became conscious that I could fully love my background along with all the others I had let in. I began performing at small packed poetry venues in the Lower East Side, did Def Poetry Jam on HBO, and years later was brought in as a keynote speaker for the Jewish Women's Federations. Yes, you heard that right. After this whole story, Jews, real live Jews in federations, wanted to listen to me, to this life. I began to realize that I was not alone in my identity wranglings. Many Jews and non-Jews alike also had similar journeys, but my path, my mission was to share it, and I did. And then I thought about how in every scene I'd been in since a child, I could spot what I called the rebel Jew. I just hadn't been paying close attention. I suddenly remembered on my own block of 88th Street in Manhattan, a plaque stood in honor of a native Upper West Sider, Andrew Goodman, who was one of the 3 American civil rights activists murdered near Mississippi during Freedom Summer in 1964 by members of the Ku Klux Klan. In the arts, there were the Jewish hip-hop legends, the Beastie Boys, Barbra Streisand, who wouldn't change her nose, and the outrageous Bette Midler. There were the humorists who pushed buttons like Lenny Bruce, Jon Stewart, and in every liberal campaign and march, I saw the names, the Goldsteins, the Rothsteins, and the Silvers. I remembered my friend who just moved to Berkeley told me he initially didn't know that most of his flatmates were Jewish because they all had now adopted Tibetan names. But maybe, I thought, maybe rebel Jews is an inaccurate term. Maybe I just need to think of Jews as the historical questioners, wanderers, rabble-rousers, and chameleons that we have always been. Maybe I was always living a very Jewish life after all. Maybe tackling Talmud was not the only way a good Jew could question. Yes, there are many Jews that follow the straight and narrow path. I know because I dated most of them in New York on JDOV. Sorry, I'm sure I'll get lots of hate mail from that. But there are many who are freedom fighters, rebels, critics, thinkers with frizzy hair, loud voices, brown skin, white skin, big boobs, short and zoftic, tall and awkward, all over the world. Exhibit A, let's just look at some of the speech titles in this year's Limud handbook, shall we? How do you pray without God? How to save your marriage in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict all at the same time. I'm a lonely Jew at Christmas. And my personal favorite, happiness. Is it overrated? I am constantly asked by educators and parents what we as Jews can do to help keep our youth involved in Judaism and stay proud of who they are. I'm approached by parents wringing their hands because they have a child who is just like I was, or they don't know if things will turn around for them, or maybe more often they're terrified that their children will turn out just like me. And if I may take a moment to make things more complicated, I'd like to admit that sometimes, after all this I've told you, I still question my own wandering. Though tougher in my resolve, I am still sometimes very sensitive to the critics, especially in the Jewish community, who love my sense of pride in being Jewish, but are then dismayed when I perform pieces in which I swear, exude sexuality, discuss my past interfaith and interracial relationships. Yes, there are times through all of this that I've shared that, as ridiculous as it sounds, I still want to be seen as a good Jewish girl. Time to mention neuroticism and guilt, two of the most Jewish traits we possess, and I wouldn't trade one bit of it. Because you see, there is no other way. There is no other way for me to come and speak to you today as a proud Jewish woman without the Upper West Side, the Sugar Hill Gang, the Bodega, the Boyfriends, the Ham and Cheese Hero, the Andrew Goodmans, the Jon Stewarts, the Bette Midlers, the Good Jewish Girl Syndrome, the Latinos who loved me like family, the hip-hop, the heartbreak, the guilt, and the humor. I am far from a psychologist or a rabbi, but I do know that this path, this life, this mission, in all its beauty and complexity, has been bestowed and blessed upon me. And maybe, just maybe, I am truly that good Jewish girl I never thought I was. I'm the Hebrew Mamita, long-lost daughter of Abraham and Sarah, the sexy, oy-veying, matzah-eating, chutzpah-having, non-cheaping, non-conspiracizing, always questioning, hip-hop listening, Torah scroll reading, all people loving, pride-filled Jewish girl. Bigging up all people who are a little miffed because someone tells you you don't look like or act like your people. Impossible, because you are your people. You just tell them they don't look, period. Thank you.